Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So I'd like to begin with some Srila Prabhupada Leela that was kindly sent to me by my godbrother Mahabuddhi Prabhu. And this is something written by Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Maharaj. And he explains, I have a story. The title of it is, What Would Srila Prabhupada Do? I have a story about Srila Prabhupada in Africa. During the time Srila Prabhupada was in Kenya in 1972, there was an incident in the country bordering Kenya called Tanzania. Part of the Chinese Communist world domination program was to build railroads and roads in small third world countries that had precious minerals in them. And in exchange for the Chinese building the national railroad in Tanzania, the country would now buy goods manufactured in China, provide some of those precious minerals, and ultimately adopt the communist philosophy. One night, while Srila Prabhupada was present in Kenya, the government of Tanzania had an all-night session of parliament and enforced communism on everyone by nationalizing the entire country. What this meant was that you went to bed owning your own home and woke up a tenant in your own house, which was now owned by the government. You now had to pay rent to the government to live in your own house, the one you built or bought for you and your family. What this also meant was you went to bed owning your own business and woke up an employee of the business, which was now owned by the government, who decided what amount of salary you would receive to work in the business that you built from scratch. Srila Prabhupada was furious with the behavior of the Tanzanian government. He railed about it for days, complaining that the leaders were thieves and rascals. He explained that in Vedic culture, the king would never steal a man's house and business that he had built up for himself and his family. He complained bitterly about this for days. During this time, Srila Prabhupada was doing public programs, and the BBC interviewed him. They asked him about the situation in Tanzania. Srila Prabhupada responded with vigorous condemnation of the behavior of the government of Tanzania, calling them and all the leaders of the world rogues, rascals, and thieves. He explained about Vedic kings like Yudhishthir and Parikshit. He explained the importance of righteous kings with spiritual values managing the world. He explained how the government was supposed to protect the people, not exploit them and steal from them. He said, unafraid and with great determination, that all the world's leaders were rogues and rascals and unfit to be in charge. At this point, the BBC interviewer asked Srila Prabhupada if there was anyone who he thought was qualified to be such a king. Srila Prabhupada stood erect, threw back his head, stomped his cane into the floor, and said with the regalness of a great king, just one word, me. You should not misinterpret these posts about the truckers doing the protests. They support the greater rights and freedoms of the people of which we are a part. This is war right now. This is Kurukshetra. We need all the help we can get. The demons are trying to take control of the planet, and they have closed down Christian, Jewish, Muslim religious gatherings everywhere. We should not ignore what is going on today. The rights and freedoms of people are being gradually eroded. And under these conditions, the Sankirtan movement and the temples will be severely restricted. Mahaprabhu did not remain passive when they tried to stop Sankirtan, and we should not either. We should be bold and aggressive to assert our rights, to spread the holy name, and open the doors to our temple, and allow people to participate in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord and dancing for his pleasure. Anyone who impedes this should be challenged. We should always fight for our rights to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. The demons are trying to destroy the planet and control everyone with absurd political conceptions. Do not give in. Stand and fight, O Arjuna. Perform civil disobedience and demand your freedoms to worship and chant the holy names. If we do not, then it can be taken away from us, and we need all the help we can get to accomplish this. Therefore, I support the truckers because the rights and freedoms that they espouse for, will also be given to us, the devotees of Krishna. Remember, Hiranyakashipu stopped all devotional activities in the world, and no one resisted. We must resist. Like Srila Prabhupada did in Africa, we must protest when the government misbehaves, because it is in our greater interest to have the freedom to prosecute Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan mission. Love it. Completely.
Jai.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Bhagavat Maharaj, the author of that again?
Yeah, that's Bhagavat Maharaj who wrote that. Yeah. And I suggested to Pradyumna, let's start this session off with that, and he fully agreed. So, Jivan Mukta Prabhu, I'd like to introduce you to our August assembly of devotees here and online. I remember the day when Jivan Mukta Prabhu walked in the door of our Toronto temple. I was head librarian there at the time, and Bhakta recruiter, Harinam leader, and this bright-faced, intelligent young man walked into the library, first visit to the temple. He had received a Back to Godhead magazine from our god sister Rudrani Devi Dasi in the heart of downtown Toronto. And so he came wanting to know more about what was inside the magazine. And the philosophy was resonating with him. I've known him since '79. He has been, I know he doesn't like me glorifying him, so I hope he will forgive me for this offense. But anyway, I'll just keep it very brief. That he's been a great contributor to our communities, and he went to Halifax some years back with his good wife Sita Devi Dasi. They opened up a preaching center there, and he's continued to serve and become a very serious student of Srila Prabhupada's books. He just can't read them enough. And so we went to this no vaccine passports trucker protest last weekend in Ottawa, and we just had a blast chanting the holy names of the Lord. When I talked to one of my godbrothers here in Canada, and he said, well, what if the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, comes up to you, Gaura, with a microphone? What will you say? And just at that time, another phone call came in and interrupted. And so I called up Narayan Prabhu, I called up Jivan Mukta Prabhu. I had my own idea of what I wanted to say. And if you want, I can say what I wanted to say. But I thought I'll check in with Jivan Mukta and see what he would say. And he got inspired to start writing a speech right away. So he took that speech with him to Ottawa. And when we got up on the stage, I mean, I've done Harinam for Canada Day in Ottawa for over 30 years, for 40, yeah, for over 40 years. But never, ever has Krishna offered a stage directly in front of the parliament buildings by which to do Harinam and to preach Krishna consciousness. So Jivan Mukta Prabhu delivered a wonderful talk on how freedom is fundamental, is intrinsic to the soul. And on our way back, we had 5 hours to talk. And, I was remembering Prabhupada saying how when we're going to spread Krishna consciousness, we should go in like a needle and come out like a plow. And then I thought, gee, the demons, they have their needle. They've been needling us with their jabs for the last 2 years, and it's created a great schism in the Krishna consciousness movement. And I said, that would be really a great concept by which to have a talk. What do you think, Jivan Mukta? And he totally agreed, and he started launching into many, many points. So today, his talk or our discussion is on how the jab isn't the end game. And some of the points that he made to me, that through this jab, they're actually trying to gain complete control of all of our material assets on the ground, in the oceans. They want to own everything. That's their agenda for 2030. And that, as Klaus Schwab said, we'll have nothing and we'll be happy. Now they're trying to control our currency. All of this is being done through the vax. And they're trying to own us and all of humanity. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Prabhu's accept my obeisances, Glories to Prabhupada. I feel honored being in your association here. Yes, we spoke about this issue. I didn't realize that going to a gathering like that and having Harinam and presenting our philosophy of Krishna consciousness would be such a, it would be so controversial with certain segments of our, society, but that's unfortunate. But it's very, very clear to me that what's going on is not ultimately what these demons want to achieve. We are getting so caught up in the details of the jab, its ingredients, which is very, very important. All of this is very important. But I think we have to keep in mind that the objective isn't just to get us vaccinated. The objective isn't just to get this into our veins. There's a reason why they want to do that. And it's not just the jab. In the past, there were so many other things. I mean, losing control of the educational system, for example, the schools. Prabhupada explained that these schools are slaughterhouses. Well, how did they become slaughterhouses? They weren't always slaughterhouses because the Bible used to be taught in the schools. There used to be religious instruction, but they became slaughterhouses because there's ultimately an objective. There's an objective to demoralize, to weaken the intellect and the physical health of the population so that they could be herded like animals, controlled like animals, their wealth could be stolen, and they've come right out and said that. It's not like this is speculation. I mean, we know what this demon Schwab has said publicly in the World Economic Forum meetings or in the Davos meetings. The World Economic Forum also is a place where Trudeau and a lot of these younger, apparently the president of France, the current prime minister of New Zealand, a lot of these young politicians have all received their training and instructions at the World Economic Forum. So there's a concerted effort by those individuals who are who establish the guiding principles of these organizations to subjugate the population. And, they're using excuses like, environmental, what's it called? global warming. What do they call it now? It's not global warming. It's
Climate change.
climate change. Like, these are all excuses. And in the past, how have they weakened society? What has weakened our human culture? Well, there's been feminism in the past, very detrimental to our society. There's been, of course, the educational system, which ultimately kind of is the propaganda arm of these individuals. This is where they inculcate, from very, very young age, the young boys and girls into thinking and behaving in a certain way, just like with these masks with the young kids now in the school. It's the same thing. They're demoralizing these children. They're instilling them with fear. They're getting them accustomed to being, completely subservient. So in the past, we've had, there was, the feminist philosophy. They're trying to divide us, of course, with this racism, with transgenderism. It's come to the point where people they're not even certain as to which gender they are. I mean, these are things that we could never have imagined in the past. Who could possibly have imagined in 1960 or 70 even that people would be confused about, like on a general scale, on a large scale, they would be confused about their gender, or that it would become such a political issue all over the world. So these are things that they've used to just demoralize the human spirit. They've introduced poison in the form of GMO foods. Pharmaceutical drugs have been around a long time, but nothing. Of course, the jab. The jab represents how far the pharmaceutical companies have come and how much power they now wield, that they can have the entire world subject to their medications. And if they don't take it, you're completely ostracized from society. This is how powerful these people have become. And for devotees to think that somehow this is just, conspiracy theory is absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, it's conspiracy theory. It's not that conspiracy isn't existing. It does exist. Prabhupada himself expressed it to us, explained it to us, how the world is being manipulated by a handful of demons. This is understood. It's known. Well, how are they going to manipulate us? And what are they manipulating us for? This jab is part of the manipulation, but the goal was stated by Schwab himself. They want to take all the assets. They want to control everything. They want to control the wealth of the ocean, the wealth of the lands. They want to control where we live. They want to control, every aspect. And they can ultimately control population. This is the end game. And this is what the devotees have to understand, that they are out to create a hell on earth. The devotees cannot just stand by and watch this. Yes, chanting Hare Krishna is the solution, no question. Prabhupada explains that in the Caitanya Charitamrita, in his purport, in the chapter of the Chankazi. Prabhupada expresses that ultimately it's the chanting of Hare Krishna that is required in this world. But at the same time, Prabhupada encourages the devotee and states that we should be engaging in this change. We should be engaging in with the larger society. Not that we just sit by idly and watch. And not necessarily that we have to get involved in politics, although Prabhupada did encourage devotees also to get politically involved. Who was the devotee in the US that was running for Senate or for governor or something?
Balavanta.
Balavanta Prabhu. Right. So
Amarendra also.
sorry, and yes.
Amarendra.
Rupanuga.
And Tulsi Gabbard, I think she's kind of devotee too.
No, that's recent.
Oh,
Talking about the In God We Trust party in the 70s.
Oh, I
she's
see.
not a devotee.
And Tulsi Gabbard is for the vaccinations. That's another story.
So anyway, I know this is something that is shocking, because even though we kind of knew where things were going, we didn't know. I personally didn't expect this to happen in my lifetime, and to see this manifesting, and to see how people are so compliant, and how they're just blocking their vision. They're not accepting what is directly in front of their faces. I mean, it's one thing for the non-devotees, but I would expect that the devotees who've been reading this in Prabhupada's books, page after page, Prabhupada is constantly presenting this reality of the demonic nature of the governments of the world, and how the devotees it's the responsibility of the devotees to get involved and try to change the atmosphere in our society. And our society doesn't just mean the devotee society. We are living in a larger society. We interact with family and friends and relatives who aren't devotees, who aren't Vaishnavas. That is our society as well. The devotee feels so much distress when he sees people in general suffering. And if that suffering is inflicted by a government, then the devotee feels that there should be something he could do aside from chanting Hare Krishna. There has to be some effort in changing the system that is subjugating not only the physically, but intellectually, spiritually, the society at large. And this is what I said at in Ottawa, is that freedom is absolutely essential for us to be able to engage in devotional service. Devotional service isn't in one sense isn't restricted by anything, but the reason we have our ashram dharma is because we are governed by the modes of material nature, and according to the modes of material nature, we have certain inclinations, and most people require a certain level of they require freedom in order to live a life where they're content and happy and could engage in this hearing and chanting and worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is why we, for example, have Grihastha Ashram, because we need to settle our minds from distress and anxiety so that we could peacefully perform our devotional service. So that freedom is absolutely essential for devotional service. And ultimately, we need freedom in order to express our love for Krishna and develop our love for Krishna, because it's completely voluntary. There is no meaning to love without freedom. I need to freely choose to love Krishna. I need to freely choose to surrender to my spiritual master. It cannot be imposed. Yet these demons, these communist demons, because ultimately this is communism, and Prabhupada did predict that the communists want to take over the world. Prabhupada spoke so vehemently against communism. In fact, to the point where he was critical that United States didn't go in and completely obliterate the Soviet Union. He wanted them, he felt that the US missed an opportunity in subjugating them during the Second World War. So Prabhupada, it's not as if Prabhupada didn't make political statements. Certain political situations impact us If not now, they will impact us eventually. And so devotees should be taking a position on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple other points in support of what you've just said that you mentioned in the car on the way here.
Yeah.
You were commenting how the Brahmins, as Brahmins, as Vaishnav Brahmins,
Yes, yes.
we are meant to be fully supporting these protests. We're meant to be inspiring the people by our example. We're meant to be participating.
Well, actually, it's even more than that, because if we take the story of King Vena, the Brahmins were the ones that eliminated the bad government. They personally took responsibility. So what to speak of personally getting involved to eliminate bad government? At the very least, we should support those who are seeking to do so if we do not want to be directly involved in that way.
Yes. You were mentioning how Kali Yuga slaughters Brahminical culture, which also includes slaughtering the cows, which Tapa Punj Prabhu he'll be addressing more coming up as soon as we're finished with your part. You were mentioning how Brahminical culture is based on a stratified society.
Yes.
Did you want-
Sometimes we think of stratification as being a bad thing, but Varnashram Dharma is all about that. Varnashram Dharma is all about clearly establishing the different categories of human activity: Brahminical, administrative, Kshatriya type work, Vaishya, Shudra, so on. So what's happening in our society today is just trying to make everyone the same, just like, getting rid of, the intellectuals, getting rid of that warrior type spirit. They're undermining the finance, they're making everybody basically live on welfare. This is what this jab did. This is what this whole COVID nonsense did, is they left everyone at home. They paid people to stay at home.
Mm.
They destroyed businesses, completely undermined that Vaishya, the Vaishya spirit. There's so many people that had businesses and even for the Shudras, for that matter, people who were working, who were just paid to stay home. People can't find employees. So, and not only that, but again, just blurring the distinctions between male and female. Even blurring the distinction between races. There's nothing wrong with having distinct races. Having these cultures have existed for centuries, and by blurring everything or making it seem as if these distinctions and this stratification is oppressive, is part of the strategy.
Yeah, you were saying that there's many needles, many jabs that are coming at humanity. You mentioned some of them. Feminism is a jab, GMOs, not just the pharmaceuticals, racism, transgender, education. We're rolled over, and individuality is being destroyed through the educational system.
Well, so many things like fluoride, is a terrible thing. The chemtrails that you see in the sky that people think are just normal. Like all of these are these jabs.
You were mentioning that we've allowed these needles to jab the Krishna consciousness community.
Yes, it's infiltrated us. We got feminism rampant in ISKCON now. It's terrible. We think that it's a good thing. It's not. It's not, because we've lost the very basic understanding of Krishna consciousness. We are all equal spiritually. Yes. Yes, a dog is equal to us. A snail, an ant, they are equal to us. But who is foolish enough to invite a dog to your lunch table or dinner table? Well, there's a lot of people these days, by the way. I should retract that. There's a lot of people that their dogs actually eat off their own plates, but it's absolutely despicable from a Vedic standpoint. And so these physical distinctions are there. And these physical distinctions are there because we all have specific roles to play in society. Men, even forget females, but males are not equal. We're equal spiritually, but there are no two males that are equal. Everyone has different talents, different abilities, different shortcomings, we're all different. So again, this idea of equality and to impose it upon our physical situation is totally buying into this demonic effort to just make everything the same.
And that's what they're doing with the jab. They're saying one jab fits all.
Yeah.
Everyone must take our pharmaceuticals, or else no jab, no job, no family, no nothing.
Not only that, but we're seeing instead of equality of opportunity, which seems to be the basis, say, of feminism, we're seeing equality of outcome.
Yes.
So people are becoming less and less qualified and occupying, say, a position of teaching your children or things like that.
And the equality of outcome, it's one thing if the equality of outcome was based on two individuals or more individuals making their own personal efforts and coming to the same, point. But it's not. It's something that's imposed, which means that if Gaur Prabhu was out there and he made $100,000 this year, and I was a lazy guy and I stayed at home and I collected $10,000 in government checks, they would take $45,000 of Gaur's money and give it to me because we should be equal. That's imposed, and that's fundamentally unfair, of course. But this is the idea, is that they want to demoralize people. They want to discourage that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit. They want to discourage Brahmins because, for example, if you speak the truth, you'll be ostracized, you'll be punished.
Censored.
They discourage the Shudras by saying, you know what, we're just going to pay you $2,000 a month. You could just stay home. And then they rile up the women to stand against their husbands and their fathers and their brothers. So everything has been weakened. Now, this is happening, like I said, we can see it infiltrating into ISKCON. And that's two things. That demonstrates that true, genuine Brahminical understanding is not there. It's not there, because if it was, we wouldn't have that situation. I just want to read, I was reading just recently something Prabhupada said.
After you read that, Prabhu, then we'll go to our second guest, Tapapunj, to give him time as well.
Yeah, and if people object to these concepts, then I, humbly request that they read Prabhupada's books. And if they are reading Prabhupada's books, I really don't know what to say, because this is all there in Prabhupada's books. And if there's an issue, certainly it should be clarified. Certainly we should have discussion and come to a mature understanding of what Prabhupada is saying, so that no one feels that they're being put in a position where they could be abused in any way, or that these teachings should be used for abuse. But let me read to you the significance of Shastra, which are Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada says, this is Caitanya Charitamrita, chapter 17, text 157. Our Vedic scriptures are not ordinary law books of human common sense. They are the statements of factually liberated persons, unaffected by the imperfectness of the senses. Shastra must be correct always, not sometimes correct, and sometimes incorrect. In the Vedic scriptures, the cow is described as the mother, therefore she is the mother for all time. It is not, as some rascals say, that in the Vedic age she was a mother, but she is not in this age. If Shastra is an authority, the cow is a mother always. She was mother in the Vedic age, and she is mother in this age also. So this is the idea that whatever the Shastra says is valid today. It's not that what Prabhupada says was valid when, and it was some kind of social, idea that was prevalent when Prabhupada was born in the late 1800s, early 1900s. When Prabhupada says something about gender responsibilities, it's not as if it was something that he was affected as a Bengali gentleman, in the early 1900s. This is how they thought. And this is now, 2020. So it's different. No, because if it's the truth, and if the Shastra says it's true now. And this is how, the Krishna consciousness movement has to be in, how we understand what is true and what's not true. We cannot succumb to the pressures, the political pressures, the social pressures of demonic Western culture.
That's interesting because devotees will say, for instance, with Jesus Christ, that when he said, oh, I am the way, I am the truth, the light, and the way, that he was speaking to his disciples as guru, right? He's not speaking to everyone for all time, but here you're saying, well, Prabhupada is speaking for all people for all time.
Yes. Didn't Prabhupada say, at the very least, we could say 10,000 years it's valid.
Right.
Prabhupada says his books should be the law books for 10,000 years. And then what happens after 10,000 years? Society goes to hell. So they're not going to be using Prabhupada's books as law books because it's going to be cannibalism. They're like on the level. Prabhupada already says that human society is already on the level of animal society. So what to speak in 10,000 years? We can see in the past few years how it's degenerated. We can see how the politicians are coming right out and demonstrating their corruption. They're not even shy anymore. This is just in the past couple of years. It's shocking. Even that should compel us even more to get closer to take shelter of Prabhupada's books. And when we discuss a subject, whether it's, should we go on Harinam in Ottawa? Should we, whatever it is, it should be based on Prabhupada's books and what Prabhupada said.
Thank you so much, Jivan Mukta Prabhu. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce our next guest speaker, Tapa Punj Prabhu. He was initiated in 1974 in our New Vrindavan community. He served as temple president and men's Sankirtan leader in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Buffalo, Columbus, Ohio. He headed up the first Hare Krishna Food for Life project in North America in Wheeling, and later ISKCON's first federally funded, first of its kind vegetarian meal on wheels in Cleveland, which attracted national media attention. He's a prolific essayist, and I should have mentioned that you've also written a book, Jivan Mukta. It was on society. What was the title of your book, Jivan Mukta?
Called, what really inspired me to do this, to write this. Well, not even write it. It was just a compilation and putting together all of Prabhupada's quotes. In the 90s, there was the debate about women, GBCs and so on. And, we were debating on Facebook, and I said, this is useless. Let's just put together a book. And here it is. If you want to read what Prabhupada says, here's what Prabhupada says. So it's called Vaishnavism and Social Responsibility.
Okay, thank you. You can make that available to anyone if they're interested to read that.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,